Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right, today we're going to talk about avoiding plagiarism. Okay, do you know what plagiarism is?
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you know that plagiarism is?
Plagiarism, when you take cite from other people, you take a sentence or taking information or thoughts about people, and you read this as you created this sentence as.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, it's like when you copy someone else without mentioning it in your work.
And
Um,
without?
without without the authorization of the person,
Okay.
or mention the name of the person or the author in your work.
Okay. Excellent. That you are both exactly correct. Okay. So, just as you said, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is using someone else's words or ideas as if they were your own. Okay, so that means I take a sentence or an essay or an article and that someone else wrote, and I turn it in with my name on it, and I say, this is from me. Okay, that's the most obvious way of plagiarism. Plagiarism is not attributing credit, not giving credit to the source of your information. And failure to cite the source of your information. If you fail to give the sources, to cite means to say exactly where you got it from, advertently or inadvertently, with intention or without intention, by accident or not by accident, is plagiarism. Ignorance is no excuse. Okay, that's like saying if you're driving on the road, you are responsible to know the laws. And if you're speeding and you get pulled over by the cop, you can't say, oh, I didn't know I can't drive 80 in a 40. Okay, in a 40. I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse. And you are about to enter academic life in the United States, and it doesn't matter whether you know or you don't know this. You are responsible. That's what you are responsible for when you enter the academic environment in this country and in most countries. Okay. Anyhow, now you will not have an excuse of ignorance, because I'm going to explain very clearly what it is. I'm going to try to explain very clearly what it is, and I will try to help you avoid plagiarism. Okay. Now, how do you avoid plagiarism? It is okay to borrow information from outside sources, as long as you say from who or from where you got that information. I don't expect you to know everything. If I ask you to write an essay, I know you don't have all the information in your head. I asked you to write a process essay, right? I asked you to look for a process that you weren't necessarily familiar with, right? And you don't know that process. I asked you to talk about how wine is made. Did anybody here grow up making wine?
No.
No.
No. Yeah? You grew up making wine?
Grew up making wine?
Yeah.
You mean at home?
Yeah.
No.
No, of course not. I asked, I gave a suggestion how cheese is made. Did any of you grow up on a farm?
No.
No.
No. Did any of you watch how cheese was made?
No.
Of course not. We can learn about the world even if it's not from our own experience. In fact, that's what we're supposed to do. Okay? That's what we're supposed to do. Okay, so, you know what, I realize, I think I skipped the slide. Okay, let me go on with this one, and then I'll go back to the important, what I wanted to say. Okay, so I expect you to take information from other sources. So the question is, how do you take information from other sources and use it in your paper without it being plagiarism? But I realize I need to go back to one slide here. Okay, this is what's really important. Actually, this is the focus, what I really want to talk about here. What are the consequences of plagiarism? So what? What if I do it and I don't get caught? Okay, what does it mean? What is it? Our thoughts, ideas, and words are considered intellectual property. Just like your watch and your wallet is your physical property, my words and my ideas are intellectual property. In fact, in this country, we have lawyers who only work with that area of the law called intellectual property. It means if you have an idea, you come up with some new way to do something, you can protect that idea because your ideas have value. And if I steal your idea, then I'm stealing, it's just the same as stealing your money. Now, you guys understand stealing money puts you in jail.
Yeah.
Stealing ideas also has consequences. Okay. If you steal someone's physical property, you are a thief. That's what you are.
Yeah.
If you steal someone's intellectual property, you are also a thief. Okay, that's what you are. What are the consequences? Students who plagiarize may fail the class or even be expelled from the school or university. The consequences vary. The consequences vary. We don't have one simple law or one simple rule of how to deal with plagiarism. If I find plagiarism in my class, basically in a paper, you submit a paper and it has been plagiarized and I can prove it, okay, and I'm going to explain to you how easy it is to prove, and I'm even going to show you an example from this class, okay, or from the two classes. If you do that in my class, you will probably get, I have to make some explanation for it, but you get an F for the class. You will fail my class. Okay, just an F for the entire class. Some teachers believe the students should be dropped from the LCC immediately upon that behavior. And we are not as strict as most universities. If you plagiarize at the university level, with intention, I'm not talking about by mistake, that's why I need to explain this to you. If you plagiarize with intention, you could be thrown out of the university. There have been some high-level cases of plagiarism recently in the news in the past year or two. I think someone high up in politics, maybe the prime minister in Hungary, it was recently discovered that he plagiarized his PhD thesis. He plagiarized because he wanted to get his degree to excel in life. Well, 20 years later, it was discovered, it was revealed that he had plagiarized his PhD thesis. And he had to, resign. He resigned his post. This is recently, I will find the source for it. He resigned in disgrace, right? Because plagiarism is a mark on your character. It's about honesty. It's about whether I can trust you. If you're married and your spouse cheats on you, you have always a doubt in your mind for the rest of your life whether you can trust that person again. It's a mark on your character. It could be a mistake, there could be a situation, but that marriage will always be questioned. That wife will always be thinking she can't trust her husband. That husband will always be thinking he can't 100% trust his wife. Because this is a character issue. This is a character issue. If you don't have enough time to complete your work in my class, you can't do the essay. You don't have enough time. The first thing you should do in my class or in any class is go talk to the professor. Say, can I get some extra time? I just need some extra time. Almost always, that professor will say, okay. Not if you're asking every single essay, but when in your time of need, if you have been a good student, then that professor is going to respond to you. And you'll say, I need an extra week. And that professor will probably say, that's okay, I understand. Right? I mean, don't be tempted to say, well, I have to turn in something. So I'm just going to copy something from the internet or copy something from a friend and then turn it in as my work. No, don't do that. And even if you have the time and you just don't want to do it, so don't do it. Don't do the work. It is better to take an F with honesty than to take an A by stealing. Okay? It's like driving a stolen car. Would you drive a stolen car and say, hey guys, this is mine? No. All of your friends would look at you and say, what, are you crazy? Of course, it's better to drive a broken car that you can afford than someone else's car which you stole. The issue is one of character. Now let me tell you a little story about some plagiarism that I've experienced here in my life. One student, this was a few years ago, I remember teaching with Greg. Okay, and it was similar to this class, right? We had the peer editing going on. So I partnered the best writer in the class. I won't forget her, a woman from Cambodia, the best writer in the class, with someone who struggled. Okay, who struggled with writing, and it doesn't matter where the student was from. So anyhow, this student was, let's say, lazy, and suffice it to say that he never looked at the blog, he never did any of the work on the blog, and he didn't know what I posted on the blog. So we were teaching, I think, maybe comparison and contrast, and I posted an essay on the blog that I found on the internet. I posted it on the blog for the students to read as an example. He comes to class for peer editing, and which essay do you think he brings to class?
Don't tell me the one on the blog.
The exact essay that I put on the blog.
You wrote it?
It's too late.
I didn't write it. I didn't know. He never checked the blog.
Damn.
So the same thing I did. I went Google,
That's stupid.
comparison and contrast essay, whatever my subject was, the town and the country. Okay. Compare the town to the country. Compare the city to the town. You know, something simple. He did the exact same thing. He copied it. He comes into the peer editing. The smartest student in the class, who knew everything about the blog and followed everything I ever instructed, right? She was the best. She looked at it, and I saw the conversation, and she was in shock. She said, you can't turn this in. This is what Ali put on the blog. His face
Of course.
dropped. His face dropped. Now, and I saw the whole interaction, and I heard the whole interaction. Now, this guy was lucky that he did not turn in the paper to me, right? I'll say that God interfered with a little Cambodian angel in his life, right? And she interfered with him turning in that paper to me, because she let him know. Any other student might not have even known. Maybe they didn't see the blog. Right?
Yeah.
Or had I not done peer editing, he would have turned this in and said, oh, here, Polly, here's my essay. Look at my great writing.
That would be funny though.
Yeah, that would have been really funny, right?
Yeah.
No, that would have been very serious. And I don't know what happened to this guy, but I know that he's not an honest person. And I know that I couldn't trust him. Now, I also want to tell you something. When you're going to go to the university, or let's talk about a little place like the LCC. You know, in the LCC, I know all of the teachers here. Right? I know every single teacher who works here. Right? We all know each other. And do you think we chat with each other? Yeah, sometimes. And you think we maybe sometimes talk about funny things that happen in our class?
Yeah.
Or maybe things, you know, maybe, do you think we ever maybe talk about some of the students?
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. I'm not saying it's constant, but certainly it's possible. Now, I'm not saying me particularly, but if somebody is known as a cheater in 5E, and that student goes to level 6, don't you think that that level 6 student might say, hey, Holly, look, I have your former students. Tell me about them. Now, personally, I'm not sure how to react. I'm not sure if I should say, keep an eye out for X. Keep an eye out for X. X plagiarized in my class. Or X is a cheater. I don't want to do that personally, because let the guy have a new chance. Maybe he has changed. Maybe he learned something, maybe he's changed his character, and that's not my place to interfere with his new character, if he has one. I don't know. I don't know. But that's me. I'm actually thinking about the consequences of my speaking. But not everybody thinks about the consequences of their talking, right? You're just
Yeah.
chatting. So if you get a mark on you, a negative mark on your character, that can travel with you. That can travel with you. It can go past this class. If you're in a department at the university, departments are small. Departments are small. Professors talk to each other. So if you have a problem with one professor, it can travel to the other professors. Now, a personal problem is one thing, but a character problem is another thing. So I can't stress enough to you how valuable your name is, okay? I can't stress to you enough how in the United States, individuals matter. Individual performance matters. We like teamwork, we like lots of that stuff, but you are still judged as an individual, and it's not like this everywhere, and I understand that, and that's why I really need you to understand this sense of individual property. That if I give you my words in my special way, I expect that you give me credit for that. Again, this is not universal. This is not universal. This is a way of thinking. This is a way of thinking where the individual thoughts, individual ideas really matter. Okay? And for that reason, it's considered stealing. In other countries, it's okay. It's just, it's public information. You don't own anything. Okay? In other countries, let's say communist countries, you don't own. The ideas are not yours. They're the communities. Communism, communal. It's the public's. But here, we don't think that way. We value individuality, and we value individual thoughts, and my thoughts are considered my property. And if you want to use my money, you have to ask me first. You have to ask me to borrow it. You can't just take my money out of my wallet. That's considered stealing. Okay? But if you need to borrow some money, you can ask me, and I will probably lend it to you. Okay. Now, when you're talking about plagiarism, you don't have to go to the author. You don't call up the author who's probably dead. You don't call up the author, "Hey, can I use it?" No, we have ways that make it okay, that make it permissible for you to use that information. Okay? We have ways. Okay. Back to this. So how do you avoid plagiarism? Yes, it's okay to borrow. Yes, I don't expect you to know how wine is made and how cheese is made and how everything is made. Of course, that's what an education is. You're learning how to do something, you're learning something new, and then you're going to put it in your own words. You're going to put it in your own words. Okay? What did I ask you to do with the process essay? I said, go learn about a process. Watch a video, read some information. Maybe you already know about it from your profession, you're familiar with the topic, but a lot of you were not familiar with the topic about which you wrote. And that's fine. Go find out about it. Take notes. Take notes, like when you're reading a book. Take notes on the article you're reading. Take notes. Take notes on what you're reading. You're watching a video, take notes on the video. And then sit down and write that in your own way, in your own words. If you copy words exactly, from the article or from the video, exactly, place quotation marks, that's quoted speech, place quotation marks around the words and cite your source. Say, Holly said, in quotations. This article said, according to, quotation marks. If you change the words, like reported speech, right? In reported speech, we actually change the words a little bit. It's not direct quote. If you change the words, if you summarize, or if you paraphrase, that's saying something in a little bit different way. Don't use quotation marks. We don't use quotation marks if it's not for direct, exact speech. However, you absolutely must cite your source. Just because you changed the words a little bit, it doesn't mean that it's not that guy's idea. It's still his idea. You still have to give them credit. Either way, you give them credit. The only difference is, here it's it's a direct quote, and here it's not. You still have to give them credit. Citing a source means clearly identifying where you got your information from. That's it. You clearly tell me where you got your information from. That's all I want. Okay. This is basically a two-step process. What do? In the text, in your essay, in the body of the essay itself, you write an in-text citation, okay? By inserting a short reference either inside the text or in parentheses at the end of each piece of borrowed information. It might be something like, according to Steve Jobs, quote, or, not quote, Steve Jobs said that. Steve Jobs explained, Steve Jobs introduced, whatever. But you give credit, you mention Steve Jobs. You didn't it's not your idea. It's not your creation. So it can be in the text, where actually I mentioned the name, but let's say it's research. You're quoting research. You don't know the actual researcher. It's just researchers, science researchers found. And you don't necessarily need to quote their names. You'll say, research in this book, or research was discovered, and at the end of the sentence, you'll put in parentheses the authors of the research. Okay? And again, that's just a way to give credit. This is saying, this is where I got my information. And then, typically, although I have not required it here, but typically, at the end of your paper, you prepare a list of works cited. Okay? It's just a piece of paper at the end, and it says works cited at the top, and in alphabetical order, it lists the sources for your information. So if you watched a video on how to make cheese, you're going to show me the video. And then I can go and look at the source and see if you copied it exactly. You're letting me do that. Or, I liked your essay so much, and now I want to find out more. You're showing me where to find that information. That's really the point. Not for me to check on you, but for you to give your credit, and for me, if I need to go use those sources myself, I know where to find them. Okay, and so here's an example. In in-text citation, and let me tell you where I got this from. I got it from our writing book. Okay, I did not create this myself. I took this example straight from, let me give it proper credit, from Writing Academic English, which I really like for teaching level 5 writing, and which I think you should all keep. I think it's an excellent reference book. Okay. So I took this example from this book. Let's take a look. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, quote, direct quote. Okay, this is a direct quote. Communities don't have the resources to allow police to patrol, blah, 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 blah. At the end, this is the name of the article it was taken from. Okay, it's called Q&A, and I put that in parentheses. Okay? And then, at the end of my paper, I'm going to have this works cited list, and it's going to look something like this. This is the name of the article. If the article has an author, it doesn't have an author. Okay, this article is written in some kind of booklet, and there's ways to cite booklets, and there's ways to cite websites. Okay, and there are books, there are manuals for you to look at exactly how to do it. That's not my point here. Okay, that is not my point here. My point here is making sure you give credit, the idea of it. Make sure you say that you got this information from someone else. Otherwise, you're saying, oh, this is all from me. This is my idea. And that is stealing. Okay, so this is about the works cited list. And I said, different style guides have different requirements for preparing the works cited list. If you're writing a business paper, they probably have a special manual for business writing. And if you're writing a scientific paper, there are other manuals. And if you're writing a paper in the humanities, we have our own way, the Modern Language Association or the Chicago Manual of Style. So there might be different ways. Some indent, some don't. That doesn't matter. Okay? That you check with your professor. Usually when you get to doing research, writing papers, they will tell you, please use this style. And it has the rules. I'm not going to go over those rules. We are provided with some at the end of this book. But that's really not the issue here. That you can check and you figure that out. The issue is making sure that you credit your sources. You give credit to your sources. Oh, what is this? Okay, and here, different ways to cite sources within a text. Within a text. Okay, let's take a look. Look at the first one. Wordsworth, English poet. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by, quote, a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. These are his words. Spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Now, if I read a paper, Yang, and you use these words, I know they're not yours. You don't talk like that, right? You don't talk like that. Who talks like that? I don't talk like that. None of us talk like that. These are the words of a poet. These were his particular words. We have to put them in the quotations. Here, this author doesn't say Wordsworth said it in the text, but still uses the words. They put the source in parentheses at the end of the sentence. Romantic poetry is characterized by this, quote. And you know that I didn't say it, Wordsworth said it. But I didn't mention Wordsworth here, I just mentioned him here. And here I'm just paraphrasing. Wordsworth extensively explored the role of emotion in the creative process. Here I'm just mentioning the author, and I'm mentioning this is the page. If you go to the works cited at the end, you'll find this book that I got the information from. I read this book on William Wordsworth. Here's the book. It's called Lyrical Ballads. It's a print, it's a book. And on page 263 is where I found this idea. And that's how you cite. Again, I can use this information. I'm supposed to use information. The issue is when we don't give proper credit. Wait, no, keep going. Now, some students think that the teachers nowadays are not too smart, okay? And that if they are more clever than the teacher, that we won't find out that they cheated, okay? We won't find out that they cheated. Yeah. Fortunately today, we have many tools available to us to help us find out whether you cheated or not. I have not required it for this class, but you can expect in level 6, and you can expect at the university, that professors will use a program called, I think, turnitin.com, and there are some other ones. And these are databases of thousands of papers.
Yeah, I know these software.
What is it?
Right? What is it? Every time you write a paper, we turn it into this database, turnitin.com.
The software matches the two documents
Oh,
and show you a percentage.
that's good.
Exactly. And it will identify whether you have taken parts of your essay, parts of your writing from somewhere else. In fact, it will identify what percentage of your writing is copied from elsewhere. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So the older generation is a little bit on top of the younger generation on this one. Okay. Okay. But I haven't even used turnitin.com. I haven't even used it yet. Yet. I know I can recognize when writing is not your own. You know why? Because when you write, you have a voice. And when I read your papers, I read it with your voice. I even read it with your accent. I know how you sound. Your writing has a voice. It sounds like you speak. And none of you speak perfectly, none of you write perfectly. That's why you're here, right? You're here learning English because you don't write perfectly. So I expect mistakes. So if I get a paper that has very few mistakes, or not the kind, that has no mistakes, I know that you didn't write it. Okay? So this paper was turned in to me, and I won't say, of course, by whom. So I want you to take this essay. And I know who wrote it. And I start to notice that this paper does not sound this doesn't sound like something that this writer would say. You know, I know how you sound. I know how you talk. Now, this paper, I'm using it as a learning example. And I'm not accusing this writer of plagiarism. It is plagiarism. I'm not accusing this writer of plagiarism. Do we have enough paper?
Yeah.
I'm not accusing this writer of plagiarism because actually this writer has tried to, a little bit, to make it not plagiarized. However, first of all, this writer did not give me the source of the information. Did not say where he or she got this information from. That's the first problem. Had the writer cited the source, okay, Holly, forget the formal list. Just write a note on the bottom that says source of information. Just let me know that you took it from somewhere else. You know. Petra wrote an essay. And where is it? She gave me all. Oh, where did she write this? See? Research. She gave me all the websites. She just wrote down all the websites that she read to put together her essay. That's okay. I don't know exactly which piece of information is from where, but at least she sourced her information. She told me, this is not my own thinking. I borrowed it, and then I tried to make it my own. This author did not do that. But you'll notice some sentences are really nice in this essay, and then some sound like a ESL writer. Some sound like they're not from an ESL writer, and some sound like they are. So this
So
student.
this is all from the internet?
Yeah, so I was reading this essay, and I said, you know what? I know that the student found the information from somewhere else, because I know the student didn't grow up on a farm. Right? About how cheese is made. So, without Turnitin.com, you know, I just need to go to Google. I just go to Google, and I type in a few words. Right? I can type in 4 or 5 words, and I can find this essay. Just like that student did. So I did. And although I am embarrassed, I forgot to put it where it is here. This is from about.com. Okay?
It is a famous website.
The source.
I always write myself.
You always what?
Write essay myself.
Yeah, well, in this class, the truth is, I basically expect you to write it yourself. Until the process essay came,
Yeah.
you know, that you had to maybe learn. But still, it needs to be your own words. It needs to be your own words and your own ideas. Okay. Now, you'll see that the author did not just lift this and hand this in to me, like that other student a few years ago. That student just picked up an essay from the internet, put his name on it, and turned it into me. And to me, that is just horrific. That is a stain on his character. That is big deal, cheating and lying, stealing. This student, I don't feel, had this intention, and that's why I'm using it as an example. And as an example for you of what you need to do to avoid plagiarism. Okay? This student did some things right, not everything. It's not completely, it's not total cheating. That wasn't his intention, but it is plagiarism. And if this paper had been, if he or she had turned this paper in the university, they might be expelled. Okay? Because it is not, it is, words are taken exactly without giving credit to the source. Without giving credit to the source. I'm using it as a learning tool. Okay. What I would like you to do tonight is to take a look at both of these papers, and I want you to highlight words or ideas that are copied almost exactly or nearly exactly. Okay, so then we can look at it as a class and show you how much is plagiarized. and what to do to avoid this situation.
Well, this is from the website.
This is from the website, okay? About.com, and I forgot to credit it, I'm a little embarrassed. Yeah, but this is not from me, I'm telling you this, I didn't write this, it's from about.com. I just copied and pasted it. You know, the problem is that there's so much information out there that you think, oh, I could just take this and just turn it in, right? But you can't, okay? You can't. And if you do it, you might get away with it 1 time, 2 times. You probably won't, because most teachers are going to require turnitin.com, because cheating and plagiarism is so pervasive a problem, because it looks easy, and people are lazy. Okay? But,
No.
But
Arrives.
it's better for you to fail a class. Nothing will happen to you, believe me. If you fail a class, your life is not ended. And your teacher won't remember that you failed the class, and nobody will care. You can still go on to be a success in your life, okay? Failure is sometimes a good thing. Did I ever tell you I used to be a business major until I failed Accounting 2, this monster course of accounting, which I hated, and I failed it big time, like a 30 on the test, big time, but it was a blessing in disguise. I am so happy I failed that test, because I would be an accountant right now. Instead of here enjoying myself with you, I would be sitting with numbers.
So it's for the
in a room.
best.
Huh?
It's for the best.
So it was all for the best. So failing,
It's not.
not the
It's
end
not
of the
always
world.
a bad thing.
And it's not always a bad thing, assuming we try. Okay. But, I mean, I'm not talking to you. But, so failure is failure, whatever. We can learn from failure. But cheating, that is a stain on you, and that stays with you. And if you, that is in my mind, it is very hard for you to change my mind. Not impossible, not impossible, not impossible. You can make a mistake and you can change your ways. You can make a mistake and you can change things, of course. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's forever irrevocable. I'm not saying you can never change it. However, you should know that once you are marked in that way, once a teacher, once a friend, once somebody knows that you have not been honest, it is nearly impossible for them to trust you again. Okay? So this is big. This is big. Again, it's an issue of character. If you are not sure whether something is plagiarism, if you are not sure whether you need to quote or not, ask. Ask your professor. That's the best prevention. That's the best prevention. You know, I have to tell you, I do have to tell you, that not everything needs to be sourced. General information does not need to be sourced. If I talk about 2 + 2 is 4, I don't need to tell you who discovered that. It's already public information.